Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my Sunday's Art of Truth for February the 27th. I'm going to be creating in my journal again, and these are some of the supplies that I'll be using. Again, this will probably end up being a voiceover because I like the freedom of being able to create and then go back and just edit and tell you what I was doing at the time I was creating. So I've got my Crafters Workshop modeling paste, my Decor Crackle paint, and Runaway ink, Daler and Rowney Indian Yellow ink. This is Amsterdam Quinacridone Rose, one of my favorite colors. This is Sap Green Permanent, which I'll be mixing a little bit with this transparent raw umber because this green is really vibrant. A couple of brushes. I've got my water bucket. I've got my glazing medium in case I want to do a glaze, and I've got my Liquitex matte medium. I am going to be using this stencil to do a little bit of stenciling, I'm hoping, and then I'm going to be using this Sean Petit stencil, and I'm going to be using the Sentiment Breathe. I know it's kind of hard to see it with all the yuck on the stencil, but there we go. So I've already kind of selected my papers. I'm going to be using a napkin. That's what you see here. So I'll be piecing that together on the surface here. So I took, this is one of the mixed media music pages that I did on camera for you guys. The mixed media, the first one that I did. I don't know if the second one, I think the second one's posting after this video. I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. So I'm going to be using this. I love the green tones in this, and then the kind of a muted out or soft brown I thought was perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and again I will do a voiceover and explain everything that I am doing. I'm going to start by adhering all of my papers. I am using my Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium, and I'm going to do this kind of collage style a little bit just because I like to break up the design. So I'm working with, again, that mixed media paper that I made on video using some vintage music pages, gesso, and acrylic ink. And I'm also using the She Decided paper from SeanPetit.com. That is a free printable in her subscriber library. She's a phenomenal mixed media artist, so offers some great little freebies in her subscriber library. So you can check her out at SeanPetit.com. I was on her design team for a year and learned loads from her, and her business, what she makes available to people is incredible. An amazing line of stencils and artwork. So we're just going to go ahead and move along. I will go ahead and just set this part to music because you don't need me yakking through the collaging bits. So I'll be back with you. What you see me doing there with my finger is I'm just trying to press out some of the wrinkles that are being created with the fluid matte medium because it's very, very wet, and so it will tend to cause the papers to wrinkle. I don't mind the wrinkles, but I don't want huge wrinkles in the design. So it's early in the morning, so I apologize if I'm a little bit I'm not quite awake and ready for this kind of activity, but our school just called a snow day, so I thought, wow, what a perfect time to get caught up. So I'm going to go ahead and get this video up and going. This is my Sunday's Art of Truth. So if you want to check out the inspiration for this project, you can head on over to B.Rebornart.com. The theme of the project as well as the blog writing will be breathe. Goodness gracious, I'm still drinking my coffee too. And it's not just the concept of breathe, but it's an encapsulating concept about self-care and pausing and listening and waiting and not rushing into decisions and you know, whatever your faith base is or whatever your source of peace or power is, spending time in that place where you can kind of think about what you're doing, think about your decisions, feel the emotions that are associated with whatever it is that's going on. So that's kind of the point of this page. And then I love this little bit. This is from a vintage music book from my stash, and I just love that little title that says Sunshine and Flowers. It does mostly get covered up in the end design, but I can see it in little bits. And again, as I mentioned before, the layers are part of the story in art as well as in life, right? We are a combination of all of our experiences, past, present, and future. So we are layers. We grow strength to strength, and we our experiences, good and bad, help us become the people that we are. So just as the layers in this project are creating the final outcome. And that's one of the things that I love the most about mixed media, is the idea of layers and what they mean, and even the layers that nobody sees, which is also true in our life, right? We don't show all of the ugly underside of our person and our world to everyone, which is right. But there's still a story there, right, that makes us who we are. So that's kind of what I'm going after here. Just making sure that that is nice and dry before I move on to the next step. I'm going to come in with my vintage photo archival ink and do some stenciling with this beautiful Mandela stencil. I believe it is from the Crafter's Workshop, but I will be sure to link everything in the supply list over on my blog, and the link to the blog can be found in the description box. So I will do my very best. Sometimes I cannot find the items because I've had them for a number of years, so but I will always do my best. Just coming in with my vintage photo archival ink with my makeup brush and just going over all of those, the rest of the page, because those lighter colored music pages were a little bit too white for me. They were too bold, so that's what I'm doing there. And now I took a napkin from my stash. This is one of my favorite napkins. Actually, one of the first mixed media pieces that I did was using this napkin. And it was called, the title of that one was called, I am blooming from the wounds from which I once bled. And oh my gosh, I remember reading that quote and just being completely struck by it. And so that's the napkin I'm going to be using here. I love the yellow. Yellow is my favorite color. So I'm just going to adhere those here and there around the piece and just let you watch that. Apologize that a little bit of that is off camera. This video was really complex, and the reason why was because I was I had my door closed, and usually when I have my door closed, my husband does not come into the room, but he came in multiple times to print something on the printer because he's trying to do his mom's taxes. And I was also in a conversation with my sister on Messenger, so I was like, and I can't, there's no pause on this computer for my webcam, which I don't understand why, because when it was connected to my old computer, I could pause. But so this was quite the editing feat. So yeah, it was one of the more complex, but hopefully it will be more seamless for you than it was for me, because I did not cut anything out of it other than the drying time, because I was going to go ahead and speed it up anyway. So, and there, I am using my Liquitex fluid matte medium to adhere those napkins. The more matte medium you use, the better. You do have to be very gentle with that brush because it will tear. I did tear the one in the lower right hand corner. Now I'm going to come in with some gesso because there's some kind of hard lines around some of those images that I just don't care for. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my finger and a little bit of white gesso and a baby wipe to kind of blend that in a little bit. And the benefit of this also, a secondary benefit, is the white gesso will always create some texture on the surface because it is it's a ground, basically. It's a product that creates a barrier between layers on a project, and so it creates by its very nature a little bit of texture on the surface. So I'm just going around all those images, and then I'll come in with my baby wipe and kind of lighten up that white a little bit, because I also didn't want it to be super bold. So this I wasn't intending to go so dark with this project, but that often happens for me, and I don't know if it's just because I have a vintage heart. I just tend to go more vintagey than anything else. I have trouble with white space. I have trouble with keeping things light. I am learning, and I've had some success, but it's definitely harder for me to do. But I love how it turned out, and it actually ties in with the message for me of this project more than it would have if I had kept it really light and bright. So I hope that you'll enjoy. There will be close-up photos at the end of the video. And just trying to rub off some of it that's catching on the wrinkles in the napkin. And I apologize, it's not closer for you, but there's a lot of wrinkles in the napkin once it was adhered. And then additionally, you want to make sure that those napkins are super dry. You don't prematurely come over them with any other medium. And so I apologize. I must have turned my camera off at this point and thought I turned it back on and missed the very beginning of this step. So rarely does a mixed media project go by that I don't use my crackle paint. And so I did here, and I ended up using way more than I intended, but I was also super distracted. Like, literally while I was doing this step, my husband was in the room having a conversation with me. So I was actually saying to him, man, I'm so glad that I'm doing a voiceover, because with all, just the interruptions of him coming in and out of the room, we were laughing about it, but so it was a little bit of a broken process in terms of my concentration. So I did go in a direction with this crackle paint that I had not intended, but again, it lent itself to the message of the piece. So the crackle, the cracks that are created with this product always speak to me of, again, the layers and the cracked layers of our lives, right? Not everything is pristine. We often want to present to the world a version of ourselves and a version of our lives that is pristine, but it is not. We are all cracked, but we are also all beautiful under all those cracks. So, yeah. So I'm going to come in with my Glaze, which is my golden fluid acrylic in raw umber, and my golden glazing medium. I was really struggling to get the glazing medium out of this bottle. I need to clean out that the opening there, because it just was not, it's plugged up just slightly, so it would not come out. So I'm going to go ahead and give a couple of coats actually, of the glaze to this page. and it gets pretty grungy at this point. But again, I adore how it turned out, and you'll see as we move along, I do come in with some other mediums, some acrylic ink to get a little bit more color into those cracks, because I don't like that kind of a brownish, dingy tone that can be left behind under or within the crackle paint with the raw umber glaze. So, but you'll be able to see that as we go along. I'm going to go ahead and just let you watch here. Just dabbing it up there with my paper towel. The first layer I usually wipe it just kind of straight across, and then I usually apply another layer and then kind of pounce my paper towel to just leave a little bit more of that paint. And then I am wiping it off pretty well off of the flowers, because I didn't want them to completely disappear in this kind of grungy background. So giving it a good dry. Again, super important. Every layer needs to be really well dried. Otherwise, you will have unexpected surprises. So, and there's just a close-up. So you can see a lot of the background papers through the stenciling, through the crackle paint. And I absolutely adore that. Again, about mixed media is that surprising layers and things show through in the end that sometimes you didn't expect or plan for, which is the beauty of mixed media. Using some permanent sap green acrylic ink, mixing it up with a little bit of that transparent raw umber that I've used before. Again, these supplies will be linked in the supply list over on my blog. And I'm going to come up across the top of the page. And this was tricky because this journal is about 1.5 inches deep. So I had a really hard time getting a hold of it there, as you can see, and getting it, being able to hold it up. And then I was really trying to not get all that fluid in the rings, because that would go down into some of the other papers underneath. So just trying to get my hands around it. Oh my goodness, it's just huge. But I love it. I am loving this journal. And this page is actually on the opposite side of the one I did last week. So it was already a doubled page, and it's super thick and really durable. So just adding, and it was adding a little bit of water to this too, so it would really get some good dripping, and then a little bit of water from my spray bottle, and just dabbing. So I'm going to let you watch this process, because it's really just a back and forth kind of dance between those two colors, the permanent sap green and the raw umber. Just to kind of create the effect I was looking for. It's kind of hard to describe it to someone who isn't actually doing it or isn't familiar. You kind of know intuitively what you're looking for, even though I don't have a picture in my head, but the inspiration just comes as I'm creating. So I'm just kind of letting it drip, because I want kind of those runs, but then I tap some of it off. So yeah. It's just a dance. You never know how it's going to really end. So coming in with my shop towel there, loving this for mixed media. These shop towels are super absorbent, and I can use one rather than 5 in a mixed media video. So they're really, really nice. And then again, coming in with more of that other color. And I was mixing those because the sap green is super vibrant. It's not a very realistic green, in my opinion. So adding a little bit of raw umber to the mix mutes it out a little bit. And then coming along the bottom as well, because I didn't want that to be different than the top. So just doing the opposite effect here and just tipping it the other direction. I love that lower right hand corner because I can see those a little bit of those words that were there, sunshine and flowers, from that vintage book page. Giving it a good dry again. Oh, I guess I am coming in with more green. Oh goodness, the dance continues. I'm just kind of dabbing that up a little bit. I love how the green was a real compliment to the piece. And then you're going to see here in a little bit that I'm going to come in with some of that yellow, I think it was Indian yellow acrylic ink, and then some white splatters, which really gives a nice ending effect for the whole spread. So, but I love, love, love my script. And so this is one of my favorite script stamps. I'm going to come in with my black archival ink, and I'm going to stamp all over this page. I like, even though there's words, we know that there's words in the papers underneath, a lot of them are covered over with the mediums. And so again, the layers, it's all about the layers. So I really like the stamping on top of the texture. It creates a really cool effect close up. It's a little bit harder to see in this project in the final photos because it got so grungy, but it's a great effect. Stamping over the texture, like over the gesso or over the crackle paint, is really cool. So just going all around the whole spread. Just making sure that that's not tacky. And I'm going to come in with this Sean Petit stencil. I believe it's called Fave Words. Yeah, Fave Words 2, I believe. And I originally was going to just have the theme again be that sentiment being breathe. But as I was looking at the spread, I thought, wow, there's so much more that I'm trying to say with this mixed media spread. So I thought I would just go ahead and continue to stencil a variety of the other words around the page. And I probably will scan this one and use it in my junk journals because it's a beautiful page and it will make a great signature paper addition to a journal. So that was a lot of my thinking too, kind of like a collage, like if I made a collage board, master board, and cut it up into journal cards or tags or whatever. It's the same kind of idea that I'm thinking here. So just moving around the page, I used breathe and embrace and heal and hope. And I believe I used restore and rest. I didn't use restore, I used relax and rest because they are all concepts that I struggle with, not nearly as much as I used to. It used to be that I would have something that was kind of concerning or upsetting, and I would immediately feel like I had to make a decision, or I had to take action, or I had to talk to somebody, or I had to have a resolution. And I've learned, thankfully, through just talking with Jesus and walking with him, that I don't have to do that. There is nothing that urgent. And it is better and it's healthier to take a beat, pause, think, pray, do whatever it is that you do to calm yourself and to get perspective, and know that the reality is we don't owe anybody anything, especially not at the sacrifice of peace and the sacrifice of our safety and our well-being. And I use the word safety kind of loosely because there's all kinds of things that can make us feel unsafe. You know, there's physical, you know, there's physical safety and there's emotional and psychological and mental safety. And those are some of the things that I'm talking about as I move through some of my current decisions. So that's why I decided to use all of those words in this piece. And this was kind of a mess because I was wanting to use the Indian yellow to splatter, but I felt like it was too vibrant for the page, so I added a little bit of the raw umber, and then I mixed it, and it looked kind of green, and I thought, wow, why is this looking green? And so then I wipe it up, and then I put it back down, and I do end up in the end getting the color that I wanted, but that's why you're seeing me put it up time and time again, because it's really hard to edit that part out because yeah, it was just really hard for me to even follow what I was doing again because I was super distracted with what was going on around me. It was awesome. The things that were happening were really good. I was talking with my sister and I was kind of praying for her over Messenger, and so I was doing that while I was creating, and because in my opinion that comes first, if I can at all control that. So it was kind of cool, but it did end up creating quite a broken process for me and something I had to kind of catch up with. So just finishing up, I do off camera come in and do some white splatters as well, and I use my black pastel to go around the edges. So I hope that you'll hop on over to the blog at B.Rebornart.com and check out the inspiration for the piece. And I hope that you are well, and I thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate you all so much. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.